It's been almost 3 months since my trip to Japan, and not a day goes by where I don't think of being there. I hope you enjoy watching some of the beautiful places we visited, as well as some of our favorite foods and coffee shops. Our first stop takes us to Shimogyo Ward, which, if you're familiar with Kyoto, is not too far from Nishiki Market. We stopped for our morning coffee at a small coffee shop called Comfy. As we arrived, the lady was baking fresh cookies, so the place smelled amazing. The shop was very minimalistic, with few places to sit or stand, and had a unique feel to it. We ordered a matcha latte and hojicha latte, my favorite. Our next stop, and what I consider one of the highlights of our trip to Japan, was the Nanzen-Ji Temple area. If you want to run away from the crowded tourist spots, I highly recommend coming to this area. It was one of the most peaceful experiences, and I felt that we were truly in Japan at this moment. When I imagined being in Japan, this is the feeling I was looking for, and although I can't quite describe it, I knew I had found it here, and I was overrun by emotions, something that would happen quite often during this trip. After all, it had been 6 years in the making, and after several failed attempts at coming to Japan, I was still in disbelief that I was actually here. Looking at this footage months later, it doesn't even seem real. So we finally arrive at this restaurant, and it's one of the most incredible meals I've had in my life. It was completely unexpected and unplanned for. The walk to the restaurant itself is so mesmerizing. We ordered the set meal with both yudofu, the boiled tofu, and yuba, the tofu skin. You wait for it to boil and thicken, then you scrape off the first layer of silky tofu. The seto also came with sushi, vegetables, and tofu skewers, which were incredible. I was so surprised by this meal because I honestly didn't know tofu could be that good. It's much richer and creamier than any tofu I've tried in America. After our mind-blowing meal, we went down the street to Blue Bottle Coffee Shop. It's a 2-minute walk from the restaurant, so it was a perfect place to stop after lunch. Due to a change of plans in our itinerary, we ended up splurging for one night at a very nice hotel in Arashiyama. To end our our almost perfect day, we headed to the hotel's bar and ordered a warm tea with some snacks to watch what was left of the sunset. We started our day early at the coffee shop right across the street from our hotel. This place gets very busy, so I recommend getting there early or just chilling out in line because after all, you're in Japan, so life can't be too bad. After our coffee break, we went on a walk along the river. I couldn't help but feel a sense of peace and belonging as my wife and I walked together in silence. I had waited so many years to come to Japan, and the dream was finally happening. Here are some other amazing spots we went to during our time in Kyoto. I recommend the Okocho Sanso area. It's near the bamboo forest. This used to be the former residence for a famous Japanese film star Okochi Denjiro. After he died, his family decided to open the property to the public. For our first stop, we met up with some friends to explore Kyoto's many tea shops. We walked a few blocks up to a small pottery gallery. This quickly became my favorite store in all of Kyoto. We had to seriously control our wallet because my wife and I wanted to buy the entire store. They have a small Zen garden in the back where you can order tea and Japanese sweets. We found this place next to our hotel. They serve traditional matcha only, but you choose your own matcha bowl and an assortment of sweets to accompany your tea. The owner was a very charming guy who was talking up all the ladies. He told me he received a Brazilian sha mate tea from a customer and asked how it compared to Japanese matcha. I told him he would be slightly disappointed. As we walked around the neighborhood, we passed by this house and the owner was having a ceramics sale. We ended the afternoon with a walk around these beautiful gardens next to our hotel. We stopped by the konbini to buy dinner before heading back to our room. Today we plan to head out to the Uji region of Kyoto, famous for its matcha production. On the way there though, we have a few stops to make. Our first stop is Walden Woods coffee shop. They have a nice selection of coffee blends which they roast in-house and a beautiful selection of pastries. Our next stop was at a 300-year-old folding fan shop. So we finally get to Uji and are excited for our first matcha of the day. We stop by Morihan Tea Square. My wife really wanted to visit a matcha store that she had read about online. Not only do they sell their own matcha, but this is also their main plant, so you get to learn more about their process. A great plus is that since this is so far from touristy spots, they allowed us to buy more than one matcha case per person. After exploring Uji and overdosing on matcha, we wanted to find a place for lunch. We stumbled upon this restaurant and my wife was salivating before we even sat down. They served grilled mackerel in a traditional Japanese style set with rice and miso soup. This is my wife's favorite type of food and mainly what she ate at home. After lunch, we went for a slow walk around Uji and returned back to Kyoto to be surprised with the most beautiful sunset. Today we met up with our friends to visit Kyoto's famous Kiyomizu-Dera Temple. This is a must-see if you're in Kyoto. I recommend being there early before 8 a.m. to avoid a lot of the tourists. What I liked about this temple is that even though it gets busy with tourists, it's still such a remarkably peaceful and spiritual experience. After our early temple walk, we stopped at a coffee shop on the way down. They had some decent coffee and matcha, better than I expected for such a touristy area. I recommend stopping by here if you haven't had your morning coffee yet. We headed back to Kyoto to meet up with one of my old high school professors and watch a local festival. This procession was retelling the story of Japan of when guns were first introduced to the country hundreds of years ago. Whoever invented this sweet potato creme brulee is a genius. This is incredible. I'm a huge fan of unagi and it's one of my favorite Japanese dishes, and I have to say this was probably the best one I've had in my life. This concludes the first part of our trip to Japan. As I sat on the Shinkansen on my way back to Tokyo and watched the city dissolve into the countryside, I could not have been more grateful for being here. Everything was so much more incredible than I had ever imagined, and I will never forget that delicious tofu meal.